Stay down. If I wanted it, you'd be dead already.
Tell me, do you bleed? You will.
The hell is that supposed to mean? Of course I bleed. I mean, I may be a godlike alien, but that doesn't mean I can't get a scratch or something.
It means I'm the one that's gonna make you bleed. I'm gonna make you bleed hard. All over me. Whoops.
That's, I don't really know what to say to that.
Hey guys, what's going on over here?
Who the hell are you?
Yeah, I don't think I remember seeing you in this movie.
I'm not in this movie. I'm in a future movie. I'm Tnashi, damn it.
You don't sound very intimidating.
No, you sure don't.
What the hell is that supposed to be? Look at your voices. What the? Don't be criticizing me when you sound like that.
Yeah, don't be criticizing him when you tell me the circles and triangles and a circle and a triangle and it makes so much sense.
God damn it, Lex. I don't even know what that's supposed to be.
Yeah, what are you even doing in this movie anyway? I gotta be here. Look, I'm the antagonist of the film. I gotta be here, okay? It makes perfect sense. The whole movie can't be about you versus you. That wouldn't even be a long movie. Come on, think of it logically.
Yeah, think of it logically. You just gotta set up mine for me. I'm gonna be coming down this beat. Coming down this movie. You're gonna see me in just as Alexander a few roads away.
I don't really understand what's going on. Anybody want a hot dog?
Damn it, Batman. You don't make any sense either. Oi, we're trying to defend this movie. Get it through your head.
Well, I'm pretty sure the movie was better than this. Well, at least I think so.
I knew the movie was better than this. It had such a good setup. It had interesting characters. It had interesting story points. It made all the sense in the world. Like, there's not that much wrong with this movie. I don't know why people hate it so bad.
You got a point, Darkseid. And besides, there's circles and there's triangles and they're supposed to be points that lead to a straight thing. You gotta it makes all this sense. I lost my mind in this movie. I knew it's coming out. That's why I lost my mind. People don't get that.
Yeah, okay. I guess you're right. Anyway, time for the spoiler-filled review.
Okay.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Tnashi's Movie Corner. I am here joined once again with Brad. Say hi.
Hey.
All right. So, I'm sure everyone has seen this movie by now, right? Surely everyone's seen this movie.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah. But, just in case we did a spoiler-free review, you can go check that out. You can check out my quick thoughts on it. After the first viewing, I've seen this movie 3 times. 3 times. I'm just saying. Is that any indication that I like the movie? Probably not. We can reference another movie that I've seen 3 times I didn't love either.
One that shall not be spoken of.
It shall not be spoken of, yeah, because, well, we won't get into that. The point of the matter is, I've seen this 3 times, so I have a lot to say about this movie, including, kind of talking about some of the stuff that people didn't like about this movie, critics didn't like about this movie. That's fine. You can have your own opinion of it. If you don't know by now, I like this movie. You like this movie, yeah?
That's right.
All right. So we're going to get into a lot of specifics. We're going to get a little nerdy here, I think, because I'm going to bring up some material from the comics and the shows and everything else. But I'm going to let you start. Where would you want to start on this?
Well, why don't we actually just start with how the characters were portrayed?
Okay, let's do that.
So I really liked Ben Affleck as Batman. Just gonna put that out there. I know
Yes.
people had their doubts about it. I really didn't understand.
Y'all
why.
suck it.
Indeed, they can.
No, for real though. I said from the very beginning, I was like, he is going to be a great Batman. I don't know why people were so, up his butt about it. Like they were like, oh well, he did. This is the same guy that did Geely and Daredevil. Well, yeah, sure. And he also did Goodwill Hunting, and he also did Argo, Fuck Yourself, and he also did The Town, and he also did Hollywoodland, and he was the best part of Runner. He's done a lot of good stuff, like seriously. And for the record, I like Daredevil.
Especially the director's cut.
Oh, wow. Okay. I like the director's cut of Daredevil. You're right. Because I actually didn't like the theatrical. Some people did. That's fine. But I did. I like the director's cut. So for those of you that thought that he would do a bad job, oops. because I have not read one review that's been posted by the critics, and the critics have wiped their butt with this movie. But I haven't read one thing in their reviews. I haven't seen one review online, and I've watched a lot where they said Ben Affleck was bad. Well, I've seen one person say that Ben Affleck did a terrible job, but they didn't see the movie, so that's okay. And we won't get into that. But so yeah, I agree. Ben Affleck.
And the
great.
thing was, I was a little bit not like I was doubting, but I think initially I was concerned. It's like I really see him pulling off Bruce Wayne like super well.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little bit unsure about how he'd do it as Batman, but he pulled them both off.
That chin though. That that's why he was put into that part. It's like he's like, so why do you want to be Batman? Well, I want to be a superhero. I can bulk up and everything. I tell you what, why don't you take this mask and just put it on? Just put this on. It's not even done. No, just put the top part on. Yeah, that chin. We need to hire this guy right now. Nobody got a chin like that. You're right. That's a Batman chin.
That's a Batman chin.
And that was it. That was it. Oh, Gone Girl. He was amazing in Gone Girl. Really like that.
Yeah, he was.
I'm a fan. Basically, I'm a fan. And the action sequences with him in it were great. Absolutely great. I think we mentioned this in the other one, but they were just so well done. And action in general is well done. But it felt like Batman in action, Now, we didn't actually address this, but he does kill people. He absolutely kills people.
Yeah.
People will hate that. People will lose their shit. They're like, Batman doesn't kill. Okay. That's a fair point. That is a fair point. This is a different Batman. And I said this about the Lex Luthor character. We'll get into that more. This is a different Batman. He's gone through a lot of different stuff. We see an indication of that with, I would assume, the Joker's writing on the Robin outfit. So you know Robin's dead. Kind of brings up death in the family, which is a brilliant comic series on its own. So the fact that you have those elements happen that we haven't seen yet, obviously changed, and they address in the film that he's changed, right? Alfred has a conversation with him. And speaking of Alfred, I said this before, Jeremy Irons as Alfred, brilliant. He's a different Alfred. He's not the Michael Caine Alfred, but I like the version they went with.
I did too. I enjoyed seeing him in that role, and I love these conversations that he has with Batman.
Yes.
Regarding Batman's, perspective on things. He kind of challenges him on some of this stuff, but he remains, supportive, and, he's actually kind of a accomplice to Batman. There are times when, like, he takes over the Batwing remotely and stuff, and, that's awesome. But I think also what plays into Batman's thing here is the opening events that happened in Metropolis
Right.
from the last Superman movie. I mean, a lot of people, died in that thing. He was dealing with a power that was beyond anything he had seen or experienced before. And I like that they actually took a risk
And he
with
lost
this.
someone.
Yeah, as far as what direction this Batman went, but I thought it was awesome seeing this new Batman.
Yeah. I agree. And now a lot of people say that Superman got a little shortchanged in this. Do you feel like Superman really got screen time a little shortchanged?
Not really, no.
See, I didn't quite get. No, I'm sure there's more with Batman in it, right? Because we have to set up his origin, which I think was done really well, because they incorporated it in at the very beginning. It was brief, it was to the point, and we didn't spend so much time going back through it, which I was kind of afraid that they would do, because at this point we've seen it so many times done, in a live action version. So I think this worked really well. But in any case, so yeah, I think Superman. I liked Superman in this movie. I liked him in Man of Steel. I think he did a good job here too. You could see him being torn, just emotionally. He was so torn by everything that he was hearing, everything that people were saying about Superman and what he stands for. And I love, and I don't know that many people bring this up, but I love all of the kind of news coverage that they had, all the different channels had, where they were addressing this issue, and they brought real people in, to address this issue of what it would be like to have this quote-unquote God among men, and how that would change everyone's perception, and how it would affect people, how there are people for it, but there are people against it, and just all the consequences of that. And I do kind of wish that they had kept going down that route, but they had a lot to put in this movie. But I loved that it was there.
I agree with that too. I think that I really loved too how this builds upon what was in Man of Steel. His adoptive father was telling him, it's like, things are going to change when the world finds out who you are, and that there was this thing about, it's like, well, some people are going to inherently be afraid of you. And that really came into play here, because he's doing a lot to help certain people, but then other people are saying, well, your actions endanger others. And it was that back and forth discussion and he felt kind of, at times it seemed like he was feeling a bit overwhelmed by what other people's perceptions of him were. That really kind of brought him down. It really hit, at his heartstrings. So I really love seeing that aspect of him. And I don't know the guy's name, but whoever this guy is that's playing Superman, he plays a great
Henry
Superman.
Cavill. Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking though of Paul Kent, he is used in this movie, right? He's used it in a scene where he has a conversation with Clark over something that happened to him as a child and the consequence of it, right? And I actually love that scene. I love Kevin Costner in general, and when I heard that he was going to be Paul Kent, couldn't have been more on board with it. But I didn't know he was going to be in this movie, and seeing him in this movie and hearing the story, I was actually invested in that story, and that was an interesting story for me. And I think that did help Superman, and it worked with Superman. It played with what Superman did later on when he sacrificed himself, and what Lois meant to him, what his mom means to him, right? So I don't know how much you liked or didn't like it, but I actually liked that.
I'm a little bit more. I'm not actually sure where I completely fall on that issue. I mean, at one point, it's kind of like that was pretty meaningful, because he's like, that day I did something that, I struggled against this and I overcame it and I was hailed as a hero. I got a cake.
Right.
But then that kind of unintentionally messed somebody else up.
Yeah, it was a story that mirrored what Superman was going through.
Right. And that message of that story is like, well, sometimes you'll make a mistake. Sometimes, bad stuff will happen. But, not to be completely focused on that. I guess to learn from it and to just kind of, do better in the future, to move on. as a personal thing, sometimes I find that a little bit odd, though, to have like this random, it seemed like spirit talk, with somebody that's deceased about this. But yeah, I think it did convey a very important message, so I'm more on board with that than any issue I think I'd have against it.
And I said this before, but Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman stole the movie for me. Because I didn't know what to expect from her. I thought she'd do well. So I was on board with her, like Ben Affleck. But Ben Affleck has a lot more films that he's been in that I've enjoyed his performance. She hasn't had that much. So she was a bit of a wild card going into it because I wasn't sure. I just didn't know. I was hopeful and I was confident that it was going to be at least good. But she stole the movie.
And the thing I loved about her character, though, too, is that she is involved with certain things that happen in this movie, but she always remains kind of mysterious, even to the other people involved.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's at this party, and she kind of, steals his Batman's hard work, which she unquote borrows.
Right.
Had to clarify
Hey,
that
she
wasn't
does
a
return
steal.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, but she remains involved in all these things, and nobody's like, for a while he was like, who are you, like. And that's the thing that is like, there are certain mysterious elements about this. It's like we still don't know everything that went to play with her in this movie, because she's almost withholding it. What her role is, what her motivations were. So I feel like that definitely piques my interest for what the Wonder Woman movie is, because it seems like there are definitely some things that are referenced here that are going to be alluded to in the movie, like her having given up on humanity, a decade ago, like what her involvement is with the events that take place in this movie. I think that movie might set up for what that does, and that really interests me.
I'll be honest, and this is just me wanting something to happen, so it might not, but her conversations with Bruce, her conversations with Batman, when he's like, I want them to get together. I do. I want it. I want it to happen. I want them to get together. They played off each other real well, and it was almost like a bit of flirting going on. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me reading into it because I want it, but I want this in my life.
I don't know if that'll happen either, but that definitely was one of the more interesting pairings for Batman that's been presented in other stuff.
Right.
And so I would very much enjoy to see that too.
And I said this in the other review, but Lois Lane. So I think Amy Adams did a great job at Lois Lane this time around. She had a lot more to do, good and bad. Gonna get into that. But her relationship with Clark was one of the things I bought the most. Right? Now, here...
Those actors definitely have a good connection thing going on that they're portraying on the camera.
And I bought all of that and how it developed and everything. Here's the thing. We'll get into one of the points that people have complaints on. And they're like, well, Lois had to be saved from Superman several times in this film. I count 3. Is it 3 or 4? There's one at the beginning. Yeah. There's obviously one when she's knocked off the building.
Yes.
One underwater.
Okay, yeah.
That's it for me. Did I miss one?
I don't think so.
We'll say 3. If it is 4, it's 4. But it's funny people complain about this, because the people that I've seen complain about this do not complain about it when it's in Man of Steel.
Not to mention that
she's saved the same number of times.
Him saving Lois Lane actually kind of played a role in some of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Because at first, when she's trying to investigate, there's that general that's kind of like, you caused this because you went to this place and Superman saved you, and that got people hurt.
Right. And of course Lex knows about it.
Right. So he's using her, to kind of get to Superman, and
Yes.
it works.
Yes. Well, and the thing is, and to be fair, I'm not the biggest fan of her being saved all the time and willy-nilly putting herself in danger when she did. She didn't willy-nilly do that when she was saved from Lex. She got caught. But that being said, this is something that's been incorporated in the Superman lore since it started. Lois has always been that person. She's always been that person. It's like Mary Jane, or Gwen Stacy, or just any number of people that are ordinary people thrown into a superhero thing. Pepper Potts, with
A superhero's personal world.
Yes, you're going to have them end up in danger. The fact that she gets saved is bound to happen. And for this film, it was bound to happen numerous times. It was set up that way. So I don't take as much issue with it. And I don't take issue with her being a journalist and following the bullet trail and seeing where that leads.
Quite literally.
Yeah, quite literally. The bullet trail. But what I said before was there's some little plot issues that I have with her, right? And well, first let's get into you. What did you think of her character before I get into this? Because I want to talk about the positive. So, what did you think of her character?
I mean, I liked her as Lois Lane. I think I was more on board with her with the last movie than you were, but
Fair enough.
I think it worked well here. I mean, her character's not supposed to be somebody that's just quite literally being saved all the time. She's supposed to be the one that's also involved with investigating things, uncovering facts. She did, and she does that here. She goes to places, she asks them to look into things, she finds information. That's kind of what the character was supposed to do. And, and then there's that moment, when they need a way to take down Doomsday, and she knew where the spear was, and so she's trying to help them. She did fail, but she was trying to help them,
Right.
get that spear.
Here's my question, because maybe I've missed it all 3 times. How did she know that the spear would help? See what I mean? Yeah. Exactly. It's a kryptonite spear. I'm guessing she would have guessed that part.
Well, yeah, I mean, she knew that it would work.
Because she knew it was going to work against
But
him.
you're right. She might not have really known that Doomsday was Kryptonian.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how she would. Now, Batman drops it while he's in the Batwing, I guess. I don't know what else to call it, but the Batwing. But then he might have known. There's no establishment why he knows either, but he's got a lot of technology in front of him. Maybe he knew it from that. Superman obviously knows, because he was kind of there.
Right.
When it was happening. But how did she know?
I don't know. No, I would say that she'd have to have overheard this somehow.
And she didn't.
Yeah. So I guess we're just gonna mount that to a bit of a little.
Plot convenience. It's been used before.
Okay.
It'll surely be used
if she
again.
had a reason for knowing that the spear would help,
Right.
or going to get it, obviously was pretty good. The fact,
Yeah.
I guess, is though that she probably shouldn't have known that the spear would have done any good.
Her being there in the first place is just her character. That's what her character's been like. But the whole getting rid of it by throwing it into some water, which I don't even know where that came from. That was very clear water. But regardless, puts it in there. Doesn't run away. Watching the fight. And then is like, you know what? I best go get this thing. Because it's going to be useful.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how, but it will
It
be.
seemed that at first she was supposed to be getting rid of the spear because it was a threat to
Because
Superman.
it was a threat
and
to
so
Superman,
She was just
yeah.
trying to, metaphorically throw it away.
Sure.
And then it's like later, oh, wait, I need this. And now it's at the bottom of whatever this thing is. And I got to go get it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Which I concur with you. I'm not fully sure what that was, but...
No. I'm not. I don't have any idea why that was there.
I'm sure there actually was a reason, depending on what this building or whatever it was that they're
Sure.
in,
I mean,
but-
that's minor. It's just it
Yeah.
was very awkward, and it's very oddly colored. Just saying, for water out, and I don't know, but yeah. Getting back to it, a lot of people had issue with Doomsday, with seeing him in the trailer. Now I agree, and a lot of people had issues with the trailer, and they're putting these trailers to task against this movie. Why? They are trailers. They are not released directly by the director of the film. They're a different team altogether. They give away too much of the film. You're right. They do. Should you hold that against the film? No. You take it for what it is in the film. Just because I knew about the Robin suit and being written with Joker's writing being on it doesn't mean I don't like it in the film. I love it in the film. That's great. That references another story arc that I really like. So I don't understand that. I don't understand why you can hold that against it. And the fact that Doomsday is in here and people are like, well, it should be a film that's focused purely on Batman versus Superman. That's just not realistic to have an entire film based on that. So basically, I really liked Doomsday. I liked that he changed, right? Because that's, again, that kind of goes back to the comics a little bit, where he was evolving with all this. Not necessarily with the energy. That wasn't quite in the comics like that. But he was evolving. He was becoming more and more like the Doomsday we knew. Loved the action sequences with him. Loved Wonder Woman when she does the role, right? And she lost her sword. And you see the smile on her face.
Like, she's really enjoying
She's
this fight.
enjoying this fight, showing the warrior aspect of her. And that was improv, I heard. So good on Gal Gadot for doing that. But I loved all of that working with it. And I think Doomsday, the thing about Doomsday is people were like, well, he was such a big threat to Superman. Well, this isn't just Superman fighting him, is it?
No, I mean, that's 3 heroes versus 1 villain.
Right. And secondly, if you've seen Superman, Batman, Apocalypse, or seen that storyline, there's a bunch of Doomsdays that come out. So he becomes kind of a throwaway villain. He's not supposed to have personality. He's supposed to be a Doomsday, a machine, kind of machine fighting against this guy. So I think we did that, and I think it worked well. And with the death of Superman being a part and helping Batman to establish the Justice League, it's going to be him looking with Wonder Woman for these superheroes and bringing them together. I think that all played in very well. I like that. And there's even a reference when they get knocked up, Superman knocks Doomsday up into space, and then they get nuked, and you see how Superman looks, which is straight out of Dark Knight Returns, and you see variations of Dark Knight Returns incorporated in this along with other comics, and that makes me as a fan of all the lore very happy when I see these moments. So how did you feel?
I agree. I did enjoy that. I was, I'm one of those people that was a little bit skeptical. I was like, can't Superman survive a nuke? But I'm glad that if he was going to survive a nuke, that they did it in this way. Like, what was the callback to that comic?
Yeah, Dark Knight Returns.
I will say that as far as the people who had the criticism about Doomsday's role into this, and that is supposed to be Batman v Superman. Batman v Superman was the primary thing here. I mean, that was the initial plan, was to get Batman to take down Superman, and
Right.
they had set all this stuff up. Doomsday was just kind of a contingency in case that didn't work.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that the focus wasn't still on the fact that Batman and Superman were having to fight it out. And even though it's been somewhat downplayed, they did have that philosophical differences over how they see things, and the fact that they were going to butt heads in this matter.
Right.
The only thing I had about Doomsday really was I'm not really sure what role Lex's blood was supposed to actually do to create Doomsday. I know that it was part of that process of corrupting the DNA and stuff like that. I'm not really sure what the human DNA does for that per se. But that's a little bit of me not fully understanding that. That's not necessarily that Doomsday shouldn't have been in this movie, because I did like, how Lex tried to use him and how that almost backfired on him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and like I said, I love the stuff that they do pull from the comics. You see a lot of references to it, with the Flashpoint paradox kind of thing, with him coming back through time, and then of course I don't know if you caught this. He came back. He even says in there, "Am I too soon?" So he came back at the wrong point in time. He meant to come in later, and he came back at the wrong point. And was like, "You have to find us." So
Seeing as I only saw the movie once, I actually missed that.
right. So I really like that. I really like that. It was a little like the editing of it is a little off, so it doesn't quite flow as like it should. But I like that it was in there. So yeah, I think I like that. Let's go ahead and move on to Lex Luthor. A lot of people hate Lex Luthor. They hate Jesse Eisenberg's portrayal of this character. And to those people, I say I get it. Okay. Not the version I wanted. The version I knew I was getting. So I don't see how you wouldn't have this problem beforehand. Maybe you did. With the trailers. Certainly knew I was getting it. Does it always work for me in the movie? No. There are times here or there where I actually do buy it, and I kind of get what he was going for because it references him being abused by his dad and having this kind of complex with it, which is we'll get into that in just a second. But I get that, and you can see little ticks that he has. You can see his face quivering at different points, like he's trying to hold back, and it's not. So I think for what Jesse Eisenberg was doing with the character, he did a good job. But for the character itself, I'm more on the fence on.
I will say I did enjoy the character concept that he is, that he went through, as you said, the abuse and stuff, and then he makes his comment is like, I've determined that God is either all powerful or all good, but he cannot be both.
Right.
And,
yes, I really like that.
And so he's talking about this complex. It's like, well, if God is all good, then he must not be all powerful because he couldn't help me. But if God is all powerful, then he's not good because he refused to help me.
By the way, those people out there that seem to be confused about what his motivation is for taking down Superman, there it is.
He wants to metaphorically kill God.
Yes, I don't see how you missed that, but oh well.
Now, as far as Lex's character
is for you.
concerned, I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit that I did not hate Jesse Eisenberg as Lex.
Yeah.
I didn't care for it as much personally either, more or less because, and this is part of my personal perceptions, but as I have seen Lex before, he had more of a confident, business-like attitude towards things.
You're talking about the animated or Smallville kind of thing?
Animations, yeah.
Yeah, because he's had different variations in the movies too, and some of them are just as over the top, or close to it as this one was.
Right.
So.
And as a personal thing, I preferred a more calculating business Lex.
Yes.
That was more sure of himself.
I agree.
That was more coherent as to what he was doing. This version of Lex, though, was a little bit more scatterminded off his brain, a little bit more, has a lot more anxiety about doing everything.
And here's my thing with that too, because I agree, I didn't love this Lex, but I didn't hate him. And for those people that hate him, you're more than welcome to hate him, because it's not what you wanted. But the only thing I have with that to go with that is, okay, look at Heath Ledger as the Joker. That is not the same Joker. That is a different Joker. That's not the Joker we grew up on. Look at Batman in the Dark Knight trilogy. Look at him in Batman from '89, I believe. Look at that, and look at the Adam West Batman. The Adam West Batman is the original type of Batman that came about in the comics. Batman was not this darker character. He was not a character that was going through all this emotional turmoil. And I mentioned this in Man of Steel, and Man of Steel being a different Superman. You can have different characters. Just because they're pulling, just because they're portraying someone, doesn't mean it can't be different. You have that happen all the time. It's bound to happen when they do live action adaptations. They pulled elements of Lex from this, they pulled elements of Lex from that. He's more like the New 52 Lex as far as being younger than Superman, and having hair, which he didn't have, many variations of it. But even as Smallville's portrayal, he had a lot of crap that he went through, and he had emotional breaking points. It was just over a longer stretch of time. So, while I don't hate this character, I don't hate this portrayal, I understand why people would. To me, there's bound to be... Wonder Woman is actually very different. She's changed several times, if not more, throughout the years from what she was. She doesn't always have a sword. She doesn't always have a shield. Obviously she's thinner built in this, but her having an accent, she doesn't always have an accent to go with it. Her reasoning for getting involved and not being involved changes. Things change. So as much as personally I wanted it to be like the 90s animated series, it wasn't. I accept that. And I'm okay with it. I don't have to love it, but I'm okay with it. I get what they were doing. So anyway, what would you like to talk about next?
Well, I guess we should talk about like the actual plot more or less here.
The Batman v Superman part?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so here's my thing. That was a lot of build-up, not a lot of payoff. I'll admit that. It should have been called Batman and Superman, from my point of view. Not Batman v Superman, although there is a counter-argument to that, which the V does not necessarily imply a direct versus as in combat. It implies more of the judicial side of things. And you see a difference in kind of theologies going with these characters, right? So you get these differences there at their core of what their brand of justice and what it means and everything. So I can admit that, but the actual fight of it lasted maybe 10 minutes in a 2.5 hour movie. Could have been longer.
Which, don't get me wrong, that fight did look pretty good.
Oh yeah, that fight was good, and to be again going against myself, that fight probably would be a little shorter. Cause one way or the other, it was bound to be short.
Indeed.
So I get that. I just wish there was more of it. Could have been more action, more face
It
offs.
seemed like a lot of that V was probably more or less a suspense leading up to that.
Yeah.
Because I liked seeing in the opening, with Bruce Wayne's perspective on the events that happened, in Metropolis and what went into that. I loved that part of it. And even though this was also brief, I love the fact that they had this kind of argument. It's like, well, where, Superman's like, Batman, you make people afraid of you. You actually seem to embellish on this. You want people to be afraid of you. And that's what you instill in others. And that's not the way to be a hero. To him, he's like, is to use fear as a weapon. And Batman's just kind of retorting back. It's like, well, you're claiming that you're a good guy, but you're an alien doing all this stuff. And, people get killed, stuff gets destroyed. So who are you to criticize me? So it was this was a brief on that, but there was that little bit of a conflict of ideology.
Right.
And so a lot of the V stuff was the fact that, it's kind of building up the sequence of events that was going to lead to that fight versus the actual tension itself.
Right. Wasn't the biggest fan of the dream sequences. I liked the first one, second one. I'm like, okay, I get the symbolism of it, but it wasn't really as necessary. Third one, would have loved it and loved the actual scene, just not the setup, because it just happens. Why does it happen? Why does he get a vision? What causes him to get a vision?
That's really not clear. And I
pacing on that's a little off.
I actually didn't really care for that opening dream sequence as much because I wasn't sure,
At what point?
Well, him running off and falling into the Batcave, I figured just okay, yeah, that was probably going to happen, because the whole fear of bats thing or whatever. But then where he's like going up towards the light with the bats and stuff like that, I felt like I really don't understand why he's viewing it as this way. You know, why his dream
As
is destroying
Batman
it this
saving
way.
him,
So,
because that's what it was. It was symbolic of Batman.
right, it
Saving
still
him.
it
The
still
bats
felt
saving
serious.
him.
It still felt weird to me.
I
And it's
yeah,
like-
I know, I get that. Before I knew it was a dream, it was definitely obviously weird because I was like, oh, what the hell's going on? But I do think the bats themselves are symbolic of saving him from and away from this turmoil that this experience he went through, and giving him focus, giving him a drive, giving him a reason, right? Because that's how he became Batman. Now, that's me reading into it, although he does mention them taking him toward the light, and that being the point in the dream is that they're taking him towards the light. So, but you're saying everything up until that point you liked, right?
Well,
so it's just that point of it that you're
Yeah.
like, nah.
it made sense as to why they were doing it.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
So okay, so I mean that's cool. That's cool. Like that works out.
As far as the other dream sequences go, like the
Yeah.
thing with his mother's grave, I didn't actually feel like that
Right.
was necessary at all. And as far as the vision thing is concerned, it felt like at that point, I kind of felt like they were grabbing for a little bit too much there, because they were
Okay.
going with the whole like dark side thing. They were going with the whole thing that was kind of like with with what Injustice Gods Among
Yes.
Us sort of did,
Yes,
and then there was the
incorporating Injustice.
and then the Flashpoint paradox, I guess, which
Yes.
kind of referenced it. I felt like that was a bit much, and it didn't really feel
Right.
like that actually fit, And as you pointed out, it's like, why is this vision or whatever
Right.
it is even happening? And then you have the whole dream within a dream sort of thing that's happening, because there's the initial thing, and then there's Flashpoint paradox.
Well,
and then
that
he
wasn't a
wakes
dream
up,
though.
all of it.
You know that wasn't a dream because well, maybe you didn't see it. When Flash appears, there's papers going everywhere, and then Flash is talking to Bruce and everything, and then Bruce gets up, but
Right.
there's still papers going everywhere.
Right, but
So they're
that's the
still
thing. It's
following.
like, have this thing, cut to this thing, cut to another one, like he's waking up, which it wasn't a dream, but it almost presented it like it was.
Right? Yeah, I know.
And it was very odd.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I actually don't think it's too much. I think it's perfect for what it was trying to do, because it was trying to set up Justice League. I think it did that. And I like the Flash being incorporated in that way. I like his interaction. What I don't like is the editing of it. I don't like the pacing of it. I don't like that there's no explanation why it's happening. That's what I don't like. So that's where I kind of I like the idea. I just don't like the execution. And there are points in this film where they do jump to another scene, and then they'll jump back. I kind of wish they wouldn't do so many. I don't mind all of them, but there are times when they do jump and they jump back, and I'm like, I don't get that. What do you think about Lex being behind everything?
I actually felt like that kind of made sense, because when I think it was towards the beginning, when he's talking about the fact that there are rumors about other metahumans and stuff out in the world, it kind of made sense that if he felt like Superman was a threat, and he heard that there were talks about other metahumans around, that he would probably use his resources to try to figure out who they were, And I love the fact that, like, in that file, with the Flash's symbol on it, they refer to him as the Red Streak.
Oh, yes.
Which was it, like, if you've seen the TV show, that's initially what they call the Flash before they come up with that name.
Right.
So it's like he's the Red Streak that just kind of comes in and, saves people or whatever. So I did like that.
Good.
But I like that they were like, and it also seemed like they were going from different sources, like Wonder Woman's was that picture from way back when. Flash's was that random, video camera that's in like a gas station or something. It looked like Aquaman's thing was from like a military submarine or something like that. There are different sources, for all these things, and he somehow managed to get them all together. It's like he was studying them, and he wanted a way of being able to, I guess, in the future, either control these people or to take them down.
Right. I think Lex being kind of behind everything, I'm on board with all that. The only issue I had was, well, how does he know who Superman is? Because we don't know.
Maybe he
just
took the
knows.
obvious route. He just like, hey, I recognize that face.
Yeah, that's probably it. He was strolling down the street, and he looked over at this guy coming out from the Daily Planet, right? And he had glasses on, and he was like, "Wait a minute." Put the hand up, put the hand down, hand up, hand down, hand up. Realization.
Maybe face recognition software.
Oh,
Just get video
actually,
of Superman's face, and then run it through a system.
You know what? I wish they had put that in on the drive too, because they did do that with Wonder Woman. So that would definitely be something to use. That's a good point. Very good point. Anyway, so I think we're gonna wrap this up pretty much. I think we've about covered. There's a lot to cover, and we could keep going, but it's been long enough. I feel like, right?
Yeah, it's definitely been long enough.
If there's any problems that y'all have with the film, by all means, let me know. If there's things you enjoyed about the film, go ahead and let me know. There's a lot of things that I could still talk about, I'm sure, and there's a lot of things, there's things that you may want to talk about. But giving this movie, which we said has had some issues, right, as far as putting stuff together, it was kind of awkward in some things. Giving it a bad rating, though, I mean, you're more than welcome to, but I feel like that's a little too much. If you're hating on this movie so hard, so passionately, I think there is a chance that some of you, not all of you, but I think there's a chance some of you probably put too much of your expectations on this film, and what you built up in your mind wasn't what you got. And because of that, it fell flat. There's bound to be other reasons, like I said. But loved Ben Affleck. Loved Gal Gadot. Loved Henry Cavill. I liked pretty much all the scenes they were in. And they are the three main focuses of this film. I loved all of the side cast. I think they did a great job. Supporting cast. I liked the different aspects that they tried to address in terms of Man of Steel, consequences of that. In terms of this film, the action always looks top notch when it's from Zack Snyder. He's got a great visual style, and you see that a lot of times in most of the film. So you had that going for it. Loved the romance, thought it worked great. I loved the score for the most part. I didn't mention this. I'm not too hot on Lex's score. It was a little off-putting. But in the Lex character, I'm kind of lukewarm too. But that is one aspect of the film. Even the plot points being a little thrown off. Again, one aspect of the film. That doesn't take away enough of the film for me to be like, oh yeah, this film is crap. Right?
I agree.
So, all the callbacks to the comics, all the action sequences, all the visual of it, the romance of it, the characters themselves, which make me want to see more. If it makes you want to see more, I don't see how it can be a failure. So that's my piece on it. Anything else?
I want to see, and this movie, it makes me want to see Wonder Woman when it comes out, and it wants me to see the Justice League movie.
Yes. Oh, no Batman.
Oh, and Batman.
Oh, okay.
Batman goes without saying.
Woo!
Batman is so awesome. He has.
Woo! No Batman. Woo! Okay. So that'll wrap this up. Everyone say thank you to Brad. You see it? You say it? Thank you, Brad. Oh, okay. Good job.
That was so pitiful.
Yeah. Well, sorry. One guy's watching. What can you do? Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this vid. Click that like button, share, subscribe to my channel, watch my other vids. I do appreciate it. And until next time, peace.